Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to True Crime Daily.
Today, all the details as investigators try to unmask a monster behind the wheel.
For 50 seconds, he's stationary, and we know that Jason's being killed at that time.
Next. Welcome back to Crime Watch Daily. In your car, at a restaurant, at the gas station, on average, every American is caught on security cameras more than 50 times a day. And it's in Nebraska that cameras would capture a rather bizarre murder. However, there's one big thing missing. Here's Anna Garcia.
A quick U-turn in the street. Then flashing headlights. A trip to the store turns terrifying.
Then the vehicle turns around and begins to chase him.
Who was chasing Jason Vesper and why?
It was somebody that was very angry.
Every moment of the father's fateful trip captured by security cameras.
We watched him on video there, watched him leave. We seen him come into the truck stop.
Right up to the violent end.
For 50 seconds, he's stationary, and we know that Jason's being killed at that time.
10 years after her father's brutal murder, and time hasn't healed Danny Vesper's wounds.
It's so hard for me to raise my daughter knowing that she can't see her grandpa.
In fact, in some ways, it's made her pain even worse.
It seemed like I was doing okay for a while, but now it's just harder to deal with.
Over the last decade, she's had to mark many milestones without her dad, Jason, by her side.
He had to miss my wedding and my brother's wedding and the birth of their children.
I wouldn't want anybody else to be my father.
Joshua Vesper says in the 17 years they had together, his dad taught him everything he needed to know.
How to be a great father and husband. That's all I need in this world is my family.
And he'll forever be grateful for their last father-son talk.
I said, love you. He told me I love you back.
That final phone call was captured in this security camera photo, taken just before 1 o'clock in the morning, the day after the new year 10 years ago.
My brother should have never been out that door that night. Never.
Kim Ott says it was a heated argument with his wife Debbie that sent her brother out on a bitter cold night in Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
She kicked him out of the house that night for giving Josh his cell phone back.
What had started as an argument between mother and son.
Me, being a teenager, I'd gotten into a little bickering argument with my mother.
Ended with an argument between husband and wife. Jason left home to cool off, and his nearly every move was captured by security cameras.
This video right here is actually aimed at the Vespers driveway.
At 12:46 a.m., Jason backs out of the driveway in his blue Dodge Dakota pickup.
There it is. And now he's northbound on Avenue H.
It was a short trip up the street to the nearest convenience store.
A little over a minute later, this is Jason at the truck stop.
By now, Jason was on the phone with his 17-year-old son Joshua, who was staying the night at his girlfriend's house.
He said that he was out driving around, wanted to make sure I was okay.
For the moment, everything was okay. After the two hang up, Jason is seen paying for his Dr. Pepper and cigarettes.
He's the only one in the store besides the clerk.
On his way out, he passes another customer heading in.
This is an elderly male with a cane, and they pass each other, and they don't even exchange a glance.
At that point, Jason leaves the store and appears to be heading home.
That's his headlights right there. And he's pulling up to a stop sign.
It's now 12:56 a.m. The security camera on city-owned property shows Jason stopped at an intersection. It's where cops believe he first encountered his killer.
And that's the suspect's car turning in front of him. And we think that that car hesitates a little bit. There might be an exchange.
I feel like maybe that vehicle pulled a little close to his and maybe he got a little upset.
Whatever happened at that intersection, the driver was about to be after Jason Vesper. The same camera shows Jason circle the block and return to the intersection.
He just keeps on going, doesn't stop at the stop sign, and he goes east on Overland.
His killer, not far behind.
Here comes the suspect vehicle around the corner.
Then the vehicle turns around and begins to chase him around the neighborhood.
Cameras at nearby community Christian schools pick up the chase. It's 12:57 a.m. The other driver is desperately trying to get Jason to pull over.
Here they come. The suspect vehicle's going to be flashing their lights.
With the other car's headlights now flashing on and off in his rear view mirror, Jason drives for about another minute, then makes a decision that would end his life.
And then they stop for 50 seconds at 14th and Avenue F. We know that Jason's being killed at that time.
For the first time since leaving his house, Jason is just out of sight of security cameras. The view blocked by a house and a tree. Cops say Jason Vesper endured a very brutal attack, stabbed 16 times by someone cops can only describe as
very angry and very violent.
Despite the vicious attack, Jason is still clinging to life and somehow finds enough strength to drive off. Security cameras once again track him.
There's Jason going south on Bryant, and there goes the suspect vehicle. Actually, the last time we see that vehicle.
Now quickly bleeding to death behind the wheel, the father of two makes one last desperate attempt to get home, where his wife was already starting to worry.
She, having mother's intuition, was just thinking, this isn't right. Something's not right here.
Danny claims her mom had been trying to reach her dad, but he wouldn't answer the phone.
That's not like my dad at all, to be gone and not answer the phone. So that was definitely the big red flag.
Another big red flag, a big red light.
We could see some bizarre light shining from down the street, We just kind of thought, strange things are happening here. Like, we need to go check this out. As soon as I got to the end of the driveway, I noticed that was my dad's pickup.
Jason had driven off the road and into a neighbor's front yard. Danny was the first to reach him.
When I opened up the door, my dad was actually bleeding a lot. He had his head down. He was barely hanging on to life.
Jason Vesper had come within a block of reaching his family. They were now desperately trying to get help. Up next, who chased down and killed her husband and father?
They asked her to take a polygraph test.
And cops try a new approach to catch his killer.
As far as I know, nobody's done this before.
The last minutes of Jason Vesper's life are caught on surveillance cameras stalked by someone and attacked in his vehicle. The only thing that police can't see is who was holding the knife and stabbed the Nebraska father more than a dozen times. Anna Garcia is back now with more on the search for the killer.
14-year-old Danny Vesper makes a horrifying discovery. Just after 1 o'clock in the morning on a freezing cold Nebraska night, she finds her dad Jason bleeding to death behind the wheel of his truck.
Is he outside or in the street? He was in someone's yard. Something happened with his truck. Dad, wake up. Did he have an accident?
But Danny and her mom Debbie weren't sure. Just 20 minutes earlier, Jason left home. Now he was barely breathing, struggling to tell them what happened.
Within maybe seconds or minutes, they realized this was much more than an accident.
The first murder of 2008 in Scotts Bluff was also one of the most brutal in recent memory. Jason Vesper stabbed 16 times. His injuries so severe, there was no way he could have been saved.
The pathologist tells us that after Jason was stabbed, he had 1 to 3 minutes to live.
It was a violent death. He suffered immensely. And I was just in shock.
Catching the killer or killers was the top priority for Police Chief Kevin Spencer.
We can account for Jason through video from the time he pulls out of his driveway until we get the 911 call.
But cops have yet to determine who was behind the wheel of this vehicle.
The first time we see this car is when it turns in front of Jason's pickup.
This car was following my brother and flashing their lights and not actually know who he was.
When Jason pulled over, the decision cost him his life.
That's where Jason is stabbed.
Jason was stabbed at one place, but was somehow able to drive away, then plowed into a snowbank. That's where cops found him. At the time, they had no idea he had been stabbed somewhere else. By the time police realized, it was too late.
In those 2 days, the sun came out, it warmed up, and the snow started melting. So whatever was there was gone.
What might have been there? The police chief thinks possibly the suspect's own blood.
I think it's likely that they injured themselves. There wasn't much for forensics in this case.
Cops are only left with the security video. Identifying the suspect's vehicle was not easy.
It was well below zero. The wind chill was 18 below. There was frost on the lenses. When the headlight shines on the camera, it just kind of washes the picture, so it's just really bright.
Cops have even turned to a professor at Northwestern University for help.
He developed this process for us. It didn't exist. As far as I know, nobody had done this before.
By analyzing the shape and size of the car's headlights, he came up with a narrow range of vehicles that it has to be.
An 85 to 88 Cadillac DeVille or Fleetwood, or an 85 to 90 Oldsmobile 98.
Cops searched extensively for more video of those makes and models from the night of Jason's murder.
We've watched all of the cameras from the truck stop. We pulled all the in-car video tapes at the time from our patrol cars. We watched all of the tapes that night.
But the suspect's vehicle has never been located. It hasn't stopped investigators from looking for someone of interest.
I think it's normal for police to investigate family first.
Detectives learned Jason left the home that night after a heated argument with his wife got slightly physical. Cops wanted Debbie to take a lie detector test.
We know she didn't do it, so whoever did it is out there getting rid of evidence, possibly leaving town, and yet they're wasting time on the family.
But Debbie was eager to take the test and clear her name. Maybe too eager. The polygrapher wanted her to wait because he thought she was still too upset to get an accurate reading. Debbie, however, insisted.
She was too stressed that it wouldn't even function properly.
Jason's 17-year-old son Joshua is believed to be the last person his father talked to, just minutes before he was killed. Cops also asked him to take a lie detector test.
I knew obviously I was innocent, so I cooperated with everything they wanted.
Police Chief Kevin Spencer won't reveal the results of those polygraphs, but says right now he does not suspect anyone in Jason's family was involved in his murder.
I think this is a random act of violence. I don't know that there would be anybody laying in wait and expect him to leave at that time of night.
The chief won't name any names, but says over the last decade, a handful of people have been questioned.
Some we've cleared and some we haven't, and we're interested in continuing our conversations with those people.
The murder of Jason Vesper is never far from the police chief's mind. And not just because it remains one of the city's most high-profile murder mysteries,
I work for the Scottsville Police Department.
but also because the chief works alongside Jason's sister, Kim Ott.
Naturally, at this point, 10 years later, you're going to be frustrated.
Josh and Danny Vesper recently sat down with the police chief to talk about the upcoming 10th anniversary of their dad's murder.
How's your mom doing?
She's doing good.
As good as she can.
Jason's wife, Debbie, sent Crime Watch Daily this statement. Jason was a great husband and father and a great person in general. We love him and miss him very much. We hope doing this show will get the case solved. The past 10 years have been very difficult for the whole family.
We need somebody to come forward and tell us who did this.
The family hopes the $10,000 reward will one day motivate someone to do that.
If the circumstances were different and this was me that this happened to, I know my dad would never give up.
He was such a good guy. Everybody loved him, and he did not deserve to die the way that he